Unicorns and glitter and taxidermy critters are just some of the things they like. They also enjoy 80s hair bands, Grizzly Adams and John Goodman, so if you think that's weird then you can take a hike. But the things they enjoy the most are making art and cracking jokes, so without further ado, here are your hosts. You've got your two artsy gals, here are your two artsy gals.
Hey listeners, it is Katie here, and we are back this week to discuss Gesso. There's a lot of rambling at the beginning of this episode. It was a weird day. Anyway, we're here. We made it. Yay! And we do eventually talk about Gesso. Let me say some stuff. We had some cool listener email this week, and I just wanted to remind you guys that we love hearing from you. So if you would like to email us at twoartsygals@gmail.com, we will read your email on the show. If you would prefer to call and leave us a voicemail, that would be super cool. And you can do that by calling 503-395-7190. We love knowing what you think of us, and we like your ideas. Give us some ideas of shows to do in the future, and share about some projects that you've done. And we'll share pictures on our website too, which is twoartsygals.com. And you know what else you can do on that website? You can support the show. That is right. Our show is 100% listener supported right now. We don't have any sponsors. So when Lonnie and I need things, we have to pay out of our pocket. And we absolutely love doing this podcast. But sometimes we need to ask for a little help because we have some expenditures that we just can't float. You can support us in a few ways. You can give us monies. And you can do that via PayPal. You can do that on the website by clicking donate, the donate button. And it's set up to allow you to donate one time, or you can set it up to do a monthly donation. Whatevs. Any amount is great and everything is helpful. You can also gift us something cool from our Amazon wish list, also from the website, by clicking the wish list button. I try to keep that stocked up with cool things that we are looking to speak about in the future. Things that we want to bring to you and say, hey, try this out. So go have a look at it. And if you see something that you would like to hear about, then you can send that to us and we will thank you heartily and tell everybody that listens to us that you brought this podcast to them. You can also support us by just sharing the podcast. Tell people about us. Say, hey, you know what? You should listen to this podcast because I really enjoy it and it's really cool. And you can share us on Facebook. You can share us with friends, with family, anybody. Speaking of the Facebook, we like social media. We're on Facebook. We post there the most. I like to share silly memes and shit on there. And we also post links to every new episode or anything new that goes up on the website. We're Two Artsy Gals on Facebook. We are also on the Twitter and we're also on the Instagrams. Both of those. You can also find us as Two Artsy Gals. And we're on Pinterest. And we always have a Pinterest board for the episode where we like to store, for each episode where we like to put all of our research links and anything that we found that was cool that we think that you guys would like. So you can go on there and it's all organized. The boards are organized by episode, with the rare exception. Sometimes we don't do a board for like, I don't know, an interview or something like that because it just doesn't seem like it applies. I think that is, you can subscribe to us on iTunes and you can subscribe to us also on Stitcher and Google Play and anywhere else you listen to your podcasts. We are handy like that. And you can listen to us through the Podomatic app, which is free to download and allows you access to all of the other awesome Podomatic podcasters. It is great and you should do it. I hope you enjoy the show. Hey everybody, this is Katie.
And this is Lonnie.
And you're listening to Two Artsy Gals.
Yay!
We've had a fucked up morning, you guys.
Technical difficulties. I was pushing buttons I shouldn't be
no, and my computer, I don't know. I think we have a cord going bad.
Yeah.
On our recorder, or like our mixer. So you guys missed it now. I can't get it back. I surprised Lonnie with a cupcake.
And it had sparkles.
It has sparkles, and it was pretty because Lonnie's birthday was last week, and I sang her happy birthday, and I gave her a funny card.
And it's a Pillsbury Doughboy as He-Man with his whisk up in the air saying, I have the flower.
And did you read what I wrote on the inside?
Like, she loves me.
But I said, so I made you cupcakes because I have the flower.
Yay!
Wah, wah. So you missed that, but I took pictures, so
yeah,
I'll post it. Yeah, because my PC, we've still been recording on my PC because I haven't actually learned how to use all the stuff on my Mac.
Oh, there goes my card.
But my PC shut down in the middle of our recording, and now I'm eating Lonnie's frosting because that frosting I could just eat a bowl of anyway.
That's so good.
I found a new cream cheese frosting recipe, yo.
I love cream cheese frosting.
God damn it. That was a good opening. What were we even talking about?
I was talking about making underwear and how people think, my mom thinks it's weird, and
Lonnie's been sewing a lot lately, and I'm really excited about it.
And I love it.
Yes.
It is very rewarding.
Yeah.
But then it is that instant, like, desire for fabric hoarding kicks in.
Oh, I know.
Oh,
you have to watch
fabrics.
that.
Ooh,
You
these are expensive.
And don't let your
them all.
Don't let yourself justify things. Like I am like, oh well, it's on sale. The only time I allow myself
Isn't that a good justification?
The only time I allow myself on sale fabrics is when when it's Halloween fabrics and they're really marked down, because I use that for everything.
Yes.
I don't use it for like you can only find that shit in the selection and variety of the selection, I guess, in the fabric stores at this time of the year.
Yeah, that's true. So there you go. I'm gonna hoard Halloween fabrics.
Yeah, I hoard Halloween fabrics. So that's how I excuse it for myself.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, Lonnie's been sewing a lot, and I had super fun. I went to Comic-Con last weekend.
Yeah,
it was awesome.
You got the cutest picture with Chewbacca.
I hugged the shit out of Chewbacca, really, because I look at it and all I see is, oh my god, you're so fat.
No,
but
you look so happy and cute.
I said, well, because I snuck up to him, I said, can I have my picture with you? And he was like, shook his head because he's a dude in a Wookiee costume. And it was like not official, like it was just a dude in a costume. Right. It wasn't like for any booth or anything like that. So, and then I said, am I allowed to hug you? And he's like, give me this, like, I could see his eyebrows go up inside the eyes. He's like, yeah, you can hug me. So I hugged the shit out of him, and he was giggling while I was hugging him. So it was making me laugh because I squeezed him. All I have to say is that dude was fucking hot. I could feel the heat radiating through.
Oh, not like hot, like sexy.
No, I felt bad for him. Like
temperature
he had to have been fucking roasting in that thing. Like I could feel the heat coming out of him. I was like, oh my god.
Oh, you poor thing.
You poor guy.
I wonder if he has a fan on his junk in there.
His dinglies. I did see a really awesome 11 cosplay.
Oh,
it was really cute. Probably middle school age girl, and she had the pink dress and the sweater and the gym socks and the sneakers and the wig, and she was carrying around a box of Eggo waffles, and it was awesome. And if you guys don't know what we're talking about, you need to get on the Netflix immediately and watch Stranger Things.
Yeah.
Because it is so good, and you will love it. And if you don't have a Netflix, then watch it with someone who does, or borrow someone's password.
I feel like that's one I'm going to want to watch again.
I'm going to watch it. My mommy's coming next week, and I'm going to watch it next week.
Yeah, I want to see it again. And yeah, that's what my kid wants to be for Halloween, is 11. So.
It was a really cute cosplay. I really liked it. And I wanted to take her picture, but she was very shy about it.
Yeah.
She was with her dad, like she was walking kind of behind her dad. And when I said, oh my gosh, can I take your picture? The dad was like, I could tell he was thankful that I asked permission. But I think that they were all very bewildered with people wanting to take her picture. I'm like, it's okay, honey. I don't have to take your picture if you don't want me to.
A very normal Comic-Con thing when you wear cosplay. It was recycling.
Yeah. It scared the shit out of me for a second. I thought, was there an explosion outside? I know, dude. Simmer down. It's okay. You're good. You don't need to protect us.
Simmer down.
I don't know why I started saying that, but I was saying it a lot lately.
I like it.
Told my mom to simmer the fuck down last night. She was out of control. My mom's very excited that she's coming to visit. So she overwhelms me with like 80 texts in a row. Like, when I come up, we can do this, and we can do this, and we can do this, and I want to do this. And I'm like, oh my god.
She's the Energizer Bunny, isn't she?
She has
a lot of
My mom does this
energy.
thing, and I have recognized this behavior in myself, and I'm really trying to curtail it so that I don't become a member of what I call Team Hysteria.
Oh yeah, Team Hysteria.
So, because that's my mom and my grandma, because they go from 0 to 60 in like, it's so fast. But the problem with them is that my mom sits and thinks about everything and plans it out and makes herself actually anxious about doing it and getting the things done. And I do that sometimes. And I have now, my mom has kind of been amped up into full gear lately for some reason. And so now I'm like, oh my God, I have got to stop doing this to myself.
And Valium or Xanax.
Well, and what I really recognize is that I do the same thing to my son.
Oh,
because he is not a details guy. I'm actually kind of pissed off at him right now, though. We took him for Christmas. We got him the 4-pack of tickets to Black Sabbath, and which was surprisingly economical. But still, we got him 4 tickets so he could take his 4 buddies. And he waited until the last minute. He says he's had a plan for a long time, but he had 3 tickets given away, and one he was going to try to bring a girl that he's been kind of dating, or he was going to bring someone else. But the friend that was supposed to be the driver and that was supposed to go bailed the day before and decided he didn't want to go.
That sucks.
He could not give away 2 tickets to Black Sabbath. 2 tickets got unused.
Oh.
And I would have gone, but you know what? I gotta have fucking time to mentally prepare for that kind of shit.
Yeah.
Like, I cannot just dive into a crowd of people immediately and be okay with it. Like, I am an introvert. I have a disability that is like a balance issue, and it is aggravated by movement in my peripheral vision. So I need to rest. I need to like rest up to prepare.
I know, you gotta get hydrated.
Yeah, and I need to be in the proper mindset.
I know. I have that same thing. Yeah.
So I just couldn't go, even though it's probably the last time that old weirdo Ozzy is going to be on the stage on tour. Because
that's what Scott and I were thinking, that this might be the last.
It says the end. It's the last. They said it's the last Black Sabbath tour. It's called the end. But I mean, plus I asked my son, I'm like, did they sound good? And he's like, when he sang, he sounded awesome. He was so stoked when we picked him up. He was also very drunk when we picked him up, but he
did it right.
Yeah. He said that when he was singing, he sounded awesome, but when he talked, he sounded like a weird bumbling old man. And I'm like, well, yes, maybe. I don't think he watched the Osbournes, but
Ozzy's gonna have to just start singing all his words.
Yes.
So people can understand him.
I'm not even going to go into the celebrity
gossip. You were going to say boner?
No. Well, kind of, but no. He just got in trouble for, like, fucking around on Sharon.
Well, yeah,
she left him.
Like,
so I was like, I wonder how he, like, I was going to say, I wonder how he gets the ladies.
Relationship. Yeah, I don't know.
Dude, seriously, I used to do home care. I can just tell you that age has no relevance on boner having.
Unless they have some kind of issue.
Yeah, it's health. It's a health issue, but I took care of a 99-year-old man that met me at the door every day with a raging boner, jerking off.
God!
And I would open the door and go, oh,
hey,
sorry for interrupting, and close the door, and I'd just say, I'll be back when you're done, and wait like 10 minutes, and then I would come in and he'd act like nothing ever happened.
The door that way. Oh my gosh.
Well, because a dirty old man answers the door that way that has nothing left to lose and a little bit of dementia.
Yeah.
So he's cognizant enough to know I'm going to arrive at this time, and he's going to surprise me with his boner. Hopefully, I don't know if he thought I was just going to jump on it as I came through the
like
door.
All those movies you've
Hot
seen.
damn.
You know? Like, that's just how it works in the movies.
I love 99-year-old testicles and the way they hang.
Oh, God.
I'm throwing things.
Sorry, yeah, we had
Sorry, that was a weird sidebar. We are going to talk about Gesso today, but I have a couple of listener emails that I forgot about last time we recorded.
I like emails.
I do too. So we have, I gotta find him, because what happens is I always answer emails. However, sometimes I like read them on my phone, and then I forget to answer them because I don't answer them from my phone. So I think I'm going to answer these, and then
you answer it in your head,
and then I answer it in my head, and then I'm like, oh shit, wait a minute, and I remember, and now the person, it's after your scrundies. Tell people about scrundies, because while I'm looking,
so I found these Stitch Upon a Time patterns, and there's underwear they call scrundies, and there's bras they call brasies, and they have shirtsies, and weird. Anyway, the names are funny, but the patterns are awesome and very forgiving, and you just download them, And they're having a sale. That's why I ended up buying one, because they were 50% off. So I was like, hey, I'll try a $4 pattern and see what happens. And I fucking love it. It's really forgiving. You can mess up and it still turns out awesome. Yeah, so I've made a bunch of underwear, I made a dress, and I made a bra thing. Yeah.
Did you get the dress pattern from that place too?
Yeah.
Oh my god, it was so super cute.
And I put ninja kitties and polka dots, and then I even put birds on it. And the inside of the pockets, it has pockets, which is so fucking awesome. And the inside of the pockets, it has polka dots. So yeah.
Cute as shit.
Yeah, it was so fun. And now I'm gonna actually, I'm gonna try to make my kids' 11 dress from the same pattern, but using 2 backs and like doing the little ruching that's on, or whatever that's called, the gathering on the front and stuff. So that's gonna be fun and but you know, it'll be like super comfy little knit dress for Halloween.
That'll be cute.
Yeah.
So we have an email from Terry. And she says that she's been listening to our fun podcast for a couple of years.
Oh my gosh.
And she loves all of us. She loved Sharon and she loves you.
Aww.
And she thanked us for doing it, and she laughs on every single episode. And she cannot support with money right now, but she has some really cool formed paper like skull masks and some coffins and some cool stuff that she was going to send to us.
Oh my gosh.
So that, because she doesn't use them, she doesn't actually like Halloween stuff, she's decided.
Oh.
So we'll fucking take them. Thank you very much. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And she also mentioned that she sometimes feels like we say things that are excluding people like 55 and older, or like maybe making fun of old people or something, or insinuating that they can't do things because of their older age. And I already emailed her back and talked to her about it, but if we've ever said anything like that, oh my gosh,
oops,
we absolutely do not mean it that way.
No,
like the majority of my artist friends are senior citizens, so like I don't think that, and we don't think that, and I think that if we've ever made jokes about being old or something, it is like about being old in spirit, not in actual number or whatever.
Yeah, or like maybe is it how we refer to ourselves? Is that what?
I don't know, but we don't mean it that way.
Yeah, okay, because I'm just curious what specifically we did so that I can like not do it again.
I know. Well, like, you know what? Here's the thing about editing yourself. You're going to make yourself fucking crazy.
Well, that's true.
That's why I decided this was going to be a swearing podcast, because I fucking swear this much for real.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know that I can not swear.
Yeah.
So anyway, but Terry, we're sorry. We did not mean to do that.
Definitely. Because I mean, as we
and know
age,
that we never mean that ever.
No, because as we age, I think crafting and being artsy is even more important. You know, especially
totally.
Like, I mean, most people don't even have time to do it until after retirement. Really, I mean, to have the time to really dive into things. So I mean, gosh, I would never.
No, we never, ever mean that.
Yeah.
And I have another, but Terry, thank you. She said she was sending that stuff to us.
Thanks for letting us know.
Thank you for letting us know. And thank you so much for being our listener. Like, we love all you guys. You are rad.
Yeah, I had a friend send me a message
from you.
I know, that said she follows our stuff and that she's envious of our creativity, and I'm just like, well, you got it in you too, come on now, you know.
Dude, we just decide, like, this is the thing, people always say, oh my god, you're so talented, you're so creative. I just get an idea in my head and decide that I know how to do a thing, and I do it.
Right.
And sometimes it is disastrous and awful, and I throw it in the garbage, and I get angry, and I would, like we were saying earlier, there was a meme earlier this week about having like the punishment corner for projects that aren't working right, especially knitting and crocheting. Look, my son's sweater that I tried to knit him for Christmas last year is still in his punishment box. Because it's not fucking cooperating with me. Because
or also the one that said,
I was just gonna say, because I decide I know how to do things. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna learn how to knit. I'm gonna start with a sweater.
Yeah.
Or a pair of socks.
Yeah. No, yeah, or like or the other one where you said you have an idea in your brain, but then your hand can't do it, right?
Yes, that angers me.
And that's another along the same lines of like.
Look, I just went through this. Like, August and September have been completely full of douchebaggery out of me. Like, I am an asshole. I'm behind on all my swaps.
Oh.
I run a mail art group, and I have 2 things that I have to mail for it that I have not sent yet. They're both done. I have not made it to the post office, so I'm sorry, Kathy, and I'm sorry, Keely, because but the one thing I was trying to paint something for Keely's, we did water-themed postcards for August. What I wanted to make happen would not fucking happen. And I painted it like 6 times, and I had tantrums, and I ripped it up. I swore I threw a tantrum like a child. I cried a little, and then I said, you know what? I'm going to print off this really cool piece of digital art that I made in design school with jellyfish, and I'm going to use that instead of killing myself with this over and over again, because it's not going to happen. Because I think that's part of the problem, is we get ourselves so constipated about shit.
Oh,
that was an accident. Anyway, we don't ever mean that you can't do things. We think this podcast is about encouraging people to just do things, no matter what their age.
Yeah, or gender
or anything.
Yeah, whatever they are, wherever they are, whoever they
care
are.
Who you are. We think you can do it.
Yeah. And you know what? If you fuck up your painting, you know what you can use to cover it up?
What? Gesso, but I have one more thing.
Uh-oh.
We have one more message.
Okay, sorry. I was
very
trying
much
to segue.
I appreciate that expert segue, and I love it. And we will get back to that. But Carla Gilliand Poirier? I'm sorry if I said your name wrong, Carla. She said it's a little late, but I have this hanging in my office, and I found it stuffed in the closet at work. I thought I'd share it since you had a hard time finding vintage examples. So, are you ready for this shit?
What?
This is about the velvet painting episode.
Oh.
Check that out.
Oh my god, that's adorable. It's the Pink Panther.
It is the Pink Panther, and I am going to post this on
so
I'm going to post this on the website.
That's tempting to be my painting that I do. I still haven't painted on my
And
canvas.
how fucking awesome. Where do you work that you have awesome velvet paintings stuffed in the closet?
Yeah.
That's
really
fucking badass. I love that shit.
Yeah.
So thank you for letting us talk about it, and I'll post a picture of it.
It's so cute.
On the blog.
That is so cute.
And now Lonnie
What?
had expertly segued us into Gesso, and we've been talking for like 15 minutes now.
Oh yeah,
so
but
we've got to get on it.
You wouldn't use it on velvet painting though. But if you mess up your regular painting on regular canvas,
you can just cover that shit up with some Gesso and go right over the top of it. So I'm talking about Gesso because it's come up in the last couple of episodes recently. I think we talked about it last week when we were talking about doing something. What were we talking about that week? It came up.
Using those gelatos.
That's right.
It's recommended that you use them on gesso because they supposedly blend better on
and it came up in another episode recently too. So I'm going to talk about just gesso and what it is. And I'm not going to get too into preparing canvases because I want to do a whole episode on how to stretch and prepare your own canvases for paintings. So, but traditional gesso was of course used on oil paints because acrylic paints are a fairly new thing as far as like the history of art media goes. So traditionally gesso has been, it's always used to prepare your painting surface. It's like a primer on a canvas or whatever surface you're going to paint on, but it's also the oils specifically, it's made a little bit differently than the modern acrylics are. So the oils had I'm reading my notes, I'm sorry you guys. I had a busy morning because someone stole my fucking credit card. God, yeah. So I've been on the phone with the bank.
It's the worst.
But it's usually made out of rabbit skin glue or some kind of glue. We're thinking like, this is how Michelangelo and all the, whatever. You know what I fucking mean.
Free.
No, it's not cruelty free. Animal skin glue, chalker plaster, and white pigment is what made traditional oil gesso. And the reason that they used it is specifically for oils, the oil erodes the fibers of the canvas over time.
Right, and when it kind of soak in and
it would soak in and spread out and bleed. So what they're doing is, it's just like when you prime your walls when you're painting your house. And it's a primer. It also gives something for it to adhere to because it all has like chalk or plaster in it, so it would give it a little bit of absorption, but not, it's like a controlled amount.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just going willy-nilly into these fibers. So I'm not going to I don't think that they actually they may still make oil gesso specifically for oil painting, but I think that most painters use now the acrylic gesso.
Mm-hmm.
They're made a little bit differently, and I do want to point out that they also make an encaustic gesso for encaustic painting. I'm not going to talk about it because I don't really know that much about it, because I've only dabbled in encaustics, and actually now I'm like, hey, I wonder if the painting is painted with wax.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So I was like, I wonder if my paintings that I tried to do would have worked better if I had used encaustic gesso.
Probably.
So I'm actually going to look into that and see. I'm going to learn a little bit more about it. But today, because I use mainly acrylic paint, and a lot of mixed media artists prefer acrylic paints, we're going to talk about a modern acrylic gesso, which again is to prime your painting surface. And the modern acrylic gesso is made from an acrylic polymer, and then it has like the white pigment, usually titanium white, and it has some chemicals, and it also has chalk to give it the tooth that it has, and then they it has some more chemicals added to make sure that it stays flexible.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So it doesn't crack.
Yeah,
if it's on
that would suck.
If it's on
Unless
a fabric.
You wanted to crack
well,
they
and there are heavier bodied sandable gessos that are meant for hard surfaces.
Okay.
Like if you're going to gesso a
Almost
piece of
like
wood or something. Yes, but
okay.
they're a little bit different. But yeah, so, and they also have chemicals added to ensure the archival quality of your work, to like make it last longer. It preserves the work that you're putting on it.
Nice.
But really, all gesso is a primer.
Wow.
That's it. But it's also more than that, because there are some magical things you can do that we're going to get to in a moment.
I've used it on my paper mache too, before you paint it. Yeah.
Actually used it on a lot of things. And I think that, so the first real artist that I ever met, like someone who was
fine art artist?
Yes. When I moved to Portland, I made a friend. I don't even remember her name now because we kind of lost contact. She was a student at PSU. She was studying some kind of fine art. She was getting a fine art degree. And she lived in one of their shitty little apartments on campus. It was like a 1-bedroom. It was cool, but it was crazy. And that's the first time I ever heard of gesso. I went with her to when it was Art Media, which is now bought out by Blick, to get gesso. And I was like, what is gesso? I'm like, oh my God, she's a for real artist. This is like 25 something years ago. I don't even know. But I think when I first started doing my own artwork, though, I was a little bit intimidated by gesso, which is silly, and you shouldn't be.
I have that too. Just because the name, it's just the freaking name seems so like cool,
like real artsy.
Yeah,
like you're real, like you know what you're doing.
Yeah, it's like European kind of.
And you're looking at this like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
Yeah, gesso. It's a thing that people
gesso
use.
is the most awesome thing. And so you wouldn't use gesso with, I think the only, you wouldn't want watercolors. I'm having trouble making words today. I'm actually very tired. Well, I was up all night envisioning people trying to use my credit card, even though I canceled the card immediately.
Ugh. And they don't
jerks.
know how they're affecting people.
They don't care.
They
I
don't
think
care,
they know.
Yeah,
I ain't got no money. I had $80 in my fucking PayPal account, which is gone.
Do they know they're picking on someone that's, ugh,
$80 that I've been saving because I'm getting my fucking hair done on Friday because my roots are like 1.5 inches long. But so you wouldn't use watercolor, but anything else, gesso is awesome for. So you're gonna, you can use it. Oh, here's some shit I learned, Lonnie. I didn't even know this. Okay, first of all, I know traditionally gesso is white. But it also comes in black, and I knew that, and I want to play around with black gesso.
Yeah,
so when you're using
canvases.
you buy black canvases. So you buy black canvas, you would gesso it with black gesso.
Oh, okay.
And I would imagine that you would do that on black canvas just because you you don't want a huge layer of gesso. You're just using a thin layer to coat.
Okay.
So you wouldn't want to cover white with black and like have to do coat after coat after coat.
Yeah.
So you would just buy black.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But it also comes in fucking clear.
Oh.
And I did not know this. And this opens a whole new world of possibilities in my brain for things to have happen.
Yeah.
Which I will talk about. And it comes in colors. And I'm going to link on the website, on our website, on the blog post for this episode. I will link where you can get all these.
Yeah, because I'm curious. Okay, so why would you want colored gesso?
Well, if you are doing a painting with, like, you know, maybe it's easier to just buy red canvas. Canvas comes in all different colors.
That's true.
Red canvas, and you want to gesso the background of it or something. Like, it doesn't have to be.
Of a red canvas.
I do too. Actually, now my brain's going,
oh, how those colors would pop on that.
Yes, right?
Me out.
So I think I love the fact that we're kind of in a time where there are all kinds of new products coming out.
Yeah. Yes.
This is part of the reason that I always panic and think, oh my God, we're going to run out of things to talk about on this podcast eventually.
Yeah, but no.
But then shit just keeps coming up. I'm like, oh, we need to talk about that.
Yeah.
So, I am still afraid. That's one of my biggest fears, that we're just going to one day go, oh, well, I guess there's
nothing new under the sun.
We've covered it all.
Yes.
Now we can just make fart jokes for an hour.
Yeah, there we go. Two fartsy gals.
Oh, that's our next podcast.
Hey.
Let me see. So there are different weights of, and actually gessos vary a lot depending on the brand. There's artist formulas and there's student formulas. Student formulas are always a little bit less expensive. They have a little bit less pigment and more filler. It's just like with any, like your basic acrylic paints. Like there are the professional brand.
The one I always see is the golden one.
I use golden, and that's an artist. Like that's a professional. Okay. I use golden. Liquitex makes a really good student one, and
okay, I've seen that one too.
But there are so many brands. Like even Blick has their own in-store brand. Different brands come in different thicknesses.
Oh, okay.
Just in general, they seem to vary a little bit.
So would you sometimes create a texture with your gesso? Absolutely,
and they do make a gesso paste that's intended for building texture. Also, I found out they make spray gesso, which makes me feel a lot better about preparing my own canvases, because canvases always seem so thin, like so nice and smooth. And when I apply gesso to my own canvases, have trouble making it not liney.
Yeah.
So
is there a technique for that?
Well, when we talk about our structure, I couldn't figure out if you. I know.
Bonking the microphone.
We're all out of sorts today. If you guys knew like 45 minutes we wasted trying to figure, maybe not 45 minutes. I know. Trying to figure out what was going on.
I think it's because I pushed a fucking button. I'm so sorry.
I think that I pushed a button.
Okay.
Because it started when you were still doing the stuff over there.
Yeah.
So I don't even know. I'm going to have to replace this cord though. Guys, we were having some I know, now I'm super paranoid. So, and if we sound different, it's because we did bad things.
This is on a Mac.
I'm recording on my Mac for the first time.
So it's probably going to sound smooth like butter because, you know.
Yeah. I have some opinions about Macs. I like my Mac and I like my PC, and maybe it's just because I'm used to my PC, but I think they're more user fucking friendly. Yeah. And I think they're more intuitive.
Well, yeah, like I
think Mac is too fucking smart for their own goddamn good sometimes. So anyway,
it's
another
all about the user experience, Katie.
But yeah, honestly, I would just spend the extra buck or two, because I don't feel like the pricing difference between student formula gesso and professional quality gesso is that much. Like I think it's like maybe a buck or two.
Oh yeah. Well,
I would just splurge and buy the more expensive, and you can buy that shit in fucking tubs.
Yeah.
So I just use a little container of it because I don't use that much of it. But in addition to preparing canvases and using it on canvases, you can prepare anything to be painted with gesso.
Oh.
That doll head thing that I did, the altered doll, I painted that plastic doll head with gesso before I painted it with other paint. so that because the other paint just peels right off of it.
Right.
Gesso sticks to it, and it primes it and prepares it for paint.
Is it different than regular primer you would get to paint your walls?
Yes.
Okay.
Because it's thicker.
Okay.
And again, it has a little bit of chalk.
So it has.
So it makes,
grabs your paint.
Yeah, it'll stick. It gives it something to stick to, because that's the problem when you're painting. I don't know if you've ever painted plastic before, like
oh yeah,
baby doll plastic.
Off.
It just peels, especially when you're doing dolls, because it's softer. You can gesso like cigar boxes. You can anything that you want to paint. You're doing altered books.
Mm-hmm. You gesso the page.
Gesso the page. But here's what I was excited about, because I think last week we talked about how I like the words to show through sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes, especially older book pages, are super absorbent and they suck too much of the paint in, and then it makes this like dry. My teeth hurt when I do that. It's weird. I feel those kind of things in my teeth. It's very strange, but it makes it hard to paint. Like you get the dry, draggy brush thing.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
So,
yeah. Also,
that
it would go through to the other page. Like,
yes.
Does the gesso prevent?
It does. It prevents bleed through. And I am very excited. I'm going to get myself some clear gesso.
Yeah,
this
so
week.
they can see the page, but you won't get the bleed through. And that's
also,
fucking rad.
Back to watercolors for a moment. Although you wouldn't want to paint on gesso with watercolor, you can, if you have cheaper watercolor paper. You know how sometimes it buckles?
Mm-hmm.
You can paint the back side of your watercolor paper with a layer of gesso and let that dry, and it prevents the buckling of the paper from the moisture.
Wow.
Or if it does buckle, you can just iron it when it's done with a hot dry iron. But that's besides the point. I totally brain farted now and gave myself sidebaritis. Sidebaritis. I don't know where I was going with that, but yeah. Well, there's got to be a pill for that. Actually, you know what I think sidebaritis actually is? Adult onset ADD.
It might be. Yeah, maybe.
I'm
shiny thing. Oh, wait.
I swear to God, it's like perimenopause is ruining my brain. I feel like I have baby brain, like mom brain.
Yeah.
I feel like I did after I had my son, which that is a real fucking thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I could not remember. If my head weren't attached, I would have lost it a long time ago.
I think it's sleep deprivation.
And I haven't been sleeping well because I wake up hot and turn the fan on, and then I'm cold and I turn the fan off.
Mm-hmm. I've been having that same thing where I'm like, the temperature right now is weird. It's like in between.
It's sweaty.
But I love September. I do.
But let's talk about not only using gesso as a primer for all of the many things that you could possibly do with it. There's some cool shit that you can just do with gesso. You can use it with stencils and a putty knife.
Oh, yeah.
And put it on the stencil, rub it across the stencil to leave textures on your work underneath. And then you paint over them and build color over them. And I've seen some really neat examples of that. It's really, or you can just like slap it on if you just want a weird texture. You want a bumpy texture, just slap it on.
Like
and so
water
you would probably want the thicker gessos for that.
Mm-hmm.
If your gesso's too thick, you can also thin it down with
Does it just
paint.
say like thick on the bottle? I mean, or
it'll say heavy bodied.
Okay,
I'm sorry,
okay.
I should have been saying that. Heavy bodied gesso is usually the way it's described.
Okay,
so it'll be a heavier.
Okay, so is there like regular?
There's regular
light...
gesso.
Okay,
in my cart over there, I should have got out my two. There's a tub of gesso in there.
Okay.
So, but mine's just regular bodied gesso. And I don't. What does it say? Just regular old gesso, isn't it?
Just says gesso. Yeah.
Yeah. So you have gesso, and this is the Golden brand.
And on the back it has a slider scale.
Yeah, Golden's really good about that. They always say, but Golden's actually, even their regular gesso. Oh my God, I always let this get painted shut. Oh, there we go. I'm the worst at cleaning off the
me too.
edges of my. See, it's a heavier body gesso anyway. Like whereas the Liquitex that comes in like the tube or the bottle is a little bit thinner. But this is just regular old stuff. But again,
it has a scale of like transparent to opaque, matte to gloss, thin to thick, and so that's cool. So you could get transparent matte.
Yeah, and they do that. Golden is actually really good about that with all
That's
their gessos
cool.
and grounds. You can read the side of it, and it
Yeah,
has it.
okay,
And they do it with their
realize
paints too.
that before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my favorite brand.
So some people use a gloss gesso?
No, I think this is just standard for all of their grounds and mediums. So gesso would be like,
I see.
gesso would
Okay.
always be on the low gloss,
matte.
like the matte end. So,
Okay.
Because shit wouldn't stick to a gloss.
No, yeah, that would be weird.
But so the heavier body gessos, and this actually is really good for building up just the regular of the golden, building up texture. And you can do amazing things with that in mixed media art, in journals, in whatever you're doing. I saw this, oh my God. So I saw this technique. I had to use Google Translate because it's a lady's blog that's in French. Obviously she's French. It's a French blog. So I had to go to Google Translate and you know, I don't know if you use Google Translate.
Yes.
Sometimes it's not.
Yeah, you're like, wait, they didn't say that.
It translates it, I think, just enough to get the context of what they're saying, like you can piece it together.
Yeah.
So the best I can understand is she's using 3 parts gesso to 1 part baking soda.
Oh, wow.
And she mixes it together and she paints a surface and then she dries it with her heat gun.
Ooh.
And you have to watch for it to perfectly happen. And it'll make little bubbles and then it bubbles up. And once that bubbles up, you have to let it cool for just a minute. And then you stamp it with a rubber stamp. And it makes an impression. You can use your stamps on it.
Cool,
and then
like
you
emboss,
can, yes, like embossing the gesso. Exactly.
Wow.
And then you can paint over it. And oh my God, I will post that blog, a link to that blog, and maybe a picture of what she's doing on the website also.
Wow.
But if you want to read it, you're going to have to use Google Translate to figure it out. But I'm pretty sure with the gist of what I got, she's using, the important part is 3 parts gesso to 1 part, like a 3-to-1 ratio. And then you have to be very careful not to get it too hot, and you kind of have to experiment with when exactly to hit it with the stamp. Like you don't want to do it too soon after, but you don't want to wait too long because you could pick up the whole bubble.
Oh.
So you just have to be careful. And I'm wondering if maybe like a little bit of mold release sprayed on the rubber stamp would make for an easier, like make it less likely to just pick up the whole bubble and take it with you. But it looks amazing.
That sounds really cool. Gonna have to check that out.
Oh, this is the thing that she did. I'm going to pull this up for Lonnie to see. But this another really neat technique that I saw a lady use is you can buy, that's the stamped gesso.
Oh, okay.
It's really cool.
Whoa.
If you click that, it'll take you directly to the website. But
nifty. Oh, that's pretty. That's
but
really pretty.
This lady also you can buy like sheets of thin metal that you can run through your big embosser things like you were talking about that you wanted. And if you paint that metal with gesso, then you can then paint on, apply all kinds of like alcohol inks or other other pigments that soak into that gesso, and then you gently sand it so some of the metal shows through and some of it doesn't. And yeah, this is the final look of that texture that she did with the stamped.
Sorry,
you guys have to look at this on the website. I know sometimes I try not to get super
looks like she did a bingo card stamp or something.
Yeah,
that's really cool. And what is that? A magic little pen, it looks like I guess it's a metallic like oil crayon or something.
I think experimenting with, well, like there's other examples when you're using stencils of like you can use the gesso to build up a thin layer to like do bricks in the background.
Yeah,
and paint that
like your texture you could feel. I like textures I can feel.
I think it's I use a lot of texture in my artwork. And I've used gesso in the past, like when I'm building up texture on using different methods on a canvas. And I do a lot of epoxy resin clay sculpting on canvas and then applying tissue paper over the top of it. Sometimes it leaves like hard edges and just the transition is too drastic. Right. So putting gesso over all of that kind of brings everything down to it's a smoother transition between textures, and
that makes sense.
it fills like maybe some of the gaps that you don't want there. It kind of makes it,
and the ledges.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, cool.
And sandable gesso works really well, like when you're doing harder sculptural stuff that you want to add paint to, but you don't necessarily want that, like you want a smoother finish. The sandable gesso is definitely the way to go when you're doing that kind of stuff.
Fun.
Another thing that you can do with gesso is I love layers, and it creates a real nice visual texture.
Mm-hmm.
When you're layering, you can kind of do gesso washes over the top of layers that you've painted to kind of push them into the background more, to mute them. So like say you have like a real bright color or a deep dark color but you want to put more layers on top of it.
Mm-hmm.
You can thin the gesso out.
Oh, okay.
And I usually use gel medium to thin it out. Just regular clear gel medium, because water makes it a little bit too wet.
Okay.
On the surface. Yeah. But if you use a gel medium, then it just adds more transparency to it, and you can kind of wash it down, and it'll push that layer into the background and allow you to build more on top of it.
Cool.
And it looks really pretty. And you can also, sometimes when you're doing art journaling, it is nice to gesso it, even if you don't want a background. Like some of those older pages are a little bit frail. Mm-hmm. And so it can just give it a little more strength and make it a little more stiff and sturdy,
right?
For you to work on, so it doesn't crumble and fall apart.
Yeah, because that'd be sad after all your hard work.
It would. And gesso actually works really great for repairing like old chipped, like if you're like sometimes picture frames. You know that old paint, like the gilding or the paint kind of chips off of them, mm-hmm. and you can paint over that before you repaint it or repair it. Because in that case, you're not going to want to use a whole bunch of wood putty to fill chips or cracks, so it kind of fills the chip or crack a little bit better. And you can also use a sandable gesso for that if you'd like, and sand it down and then paint over it. It does really nice on little delicate repairs like that.
Okay.
And as you brought up earlier, I want to talk a little bit more about using gesso to cover mistakes. Mm-hmm. Because even in the middle of your work, if you've done, like sometimes I get a little bit carried away and a little Swedish chef like, and I drip big blobs of paint in the middle of what I'm doing or something that I don't want there. Mm-hmm. You can just gesso over, like if you drip a darker color on a lighter color and you're like, fuck, what am I going to do? Mm-hmm. You can gesso over that and then repaint the lighter color to blend over the gesso when it dries.
Nice.
Or, like you were saying, just repaint. If you have a painting that you fucking hate, you screwed it up, it looks dumb as shit, and you hate it, and you want to stab it with a knife and throw it in the garbage, don't do that. Don't waste a canvas. Yeah. Just paint over it with gesso and start again. Yep. From scratch. That's what I use gesso for the most. Mm-hmm.
You could do that with thrift store paintings as well, right? Like people paint over thrift store paintings or whatever.
Yeah, but I think you can get canvases pretty cheap these days. You don't have to do that. Yeah. But also, if you're adding, I did use gesso. That's a good point. When I did the remember the monster painting swap that I did? So we did these really cool paintings. You've probably seen them on the interwebs. My different art group that I belong to, you go buy a thrift store painting, and then you try to add a monster to it and make it look like it was originally part of the painting. Mm-hmm. So the painting that I got, I wished I would have been able to find one with trees and stuff in the landscape, but I honestly could not fucking find. Wow. I had a hell of a time finding a landscape painting that was like a realistic size to mail. Like I didn't want to get a great big giant thing. Yeah. So I used the gesso I kind of sketched the outline of the monster that I wanted to add to the painting. And then I used the gesso as a little bit of a ground to add that so that I wouldn't, so you're not having to build up layers over the top of darker paints below, because I made this like funny green troll guy walking across a snowy plain. I just thought that maybe like we're gonna have to wrap this up because we've been talking for way too long. This kind of turned into an hour-long podcast lately. I don't know what the fuck the deal is. Also, I have to poop again, but I just thought because it had come up a couple of times, and some people don't know what to use gesso for, and I don't know why people get embarrassed to ask about that kind of stuff. I know, but you
don't want to look like you don't know what you're.
Yeah, no. My mom asked me.
She's like, you don't know what gesso is?
Yeah, no, I would never be that way because I fucking hate snobs. But my mom asked me, like, what is gesso? Because I was explaining something to her, and I was like, she's heard of it. She knew of it. She knows it's a thing.
Right.
But it's a very universal product. Like there are a lot of things you can do with gesso, and it's I think a key or a really important supply to have around if you're a mixed media artist. I think that it's really helpful to just have around. You never know, and experiment with it. Just go, fuck, I'm gonna slap some gesso on this shit and see if it works.
I found a DIY gesso where you just mix.
Oh, I was gonna ask you about that.
Yeah, white paint and like drywall plaster together.
Yes.
And make it, mix it smooth, and so it does. It gives it that chalky. It's just.
And you said that stuff goes bad though.
I think it did go bad.
Yeah.
Maybe it didn't. I need to check because I still have it. So I was like, I forgot to check.
Yeah, I'll find some recipes.
It's definitely my and maybe it's because I added flour to it or something. Maybe
flour will make it spoil.
Oh no, it was also the paper mache paste, paint and plaster or whatever. So, but I bet you could just mix paint and
I'll look for some because I did find it. There was some with talcum powder too, which I don't recommend using talcum just because of cancer and things,
which is weird.
Yeah.
We put it on our babies.
I always put cornstarch powder on my baby.
No, I never put talcum on my baby, but I mean, we used to.
Yeah,
I think it was more common back in.
But yeah, so anyway, get some gesso and try this shit out, guys. I think you'll love it. I think if you're not used to playing with it, that you should experiment with it and maybe get some different, get some heavy bodied, get some regular, try out a few brands. I'm getting some fucking transparent. Yeah. I am excited about that.
Yeah, that's really cool.
I'm very excited about it.
I almost bought some last time I was at the art supply store and I forgot.
I'm gonna get some black gesso too. I think that we should do an episode about
red sounds really cool.
This is what I mean. I think we need to do an episode about different coloring on different grounds.
Yeah.
So anyway, next week we're gonna be back and we're gonna have our fabric episode and it's gonna be awesome. So until next week, go make some cool shit, yo.
Do it now.
Good morning, Katie. This is your friend. I'm recording on the new Tascam. I'm trying to figure out what the buttons do, but every once in a while I take a break to poo.